Good morning. Good morning. This is Kendall Askins from Stimulated Minds. Askins stimulates on all of our social media platforms, and I'm joining you on another day with another Rethinking Math. And today, I really want to talk to you guys about speed not equaling intelligence. Okay, speed does not equal intelligence. So many of you on here are my age, around my age, or even maybe a little bit older. And I know that you remember in school when you would be learning, the teacher would teach a lesson, and then it would get to the part where the teacher wanted you to do something on your own. And when the teacher wanted you to do something on your own, mainly this happens a lot in elementary school. To this day, this is still happening. So teacher would assign some pages for practice to say like, okay, we went over these problems. Now you're going to do these problems by yourself. Right? Sometimes now they have you work in a group, but most of the time they would say, by yourself, do these problems. And when you would start doing the problems, the whole class get quiet, start working on the problems. And then all of a sudden, somebody, maybe 5-10 minutes pass and you have a kid, I'm done, I'm finished, right? And what happens? Like all the other kids freeze, they're looking, oh my goodness, there's anticipation. That kid, the teacher signals for that kid to come closer. The kid goes up to the teacher's desk, right? The teacher checks the answers, and one of two things happen. And everybody, the whole class is watching, right? So this kid is coming up very proud, and they either get told, oh, you have to fix these problems, you made a mistake, they get something explained, or there's the dreaded like check mark, right? Excellent. You finished everything. Now go on to this page. And I remember this happening. And I remember the class waiting. I personally remember when you would see that kid get a check, it was like game on. Now everybody's like, oh my goodness, they finished. They're so smart. I should be finished too. And all of a sudden, the time frame that child finished became everyone's standard. And now kids were rushing to finish, wanting to be the next one to get that big check mark, wanting to be the next one to be able to go forward and do whatever the next piece was, and really ultimately wanting that credit, right? And it got to a certain point, like you had to be probably within the first 10 children to finish to be deemed smart, right? And if you were like after that, you were deemed like, okay, and don't let you be the last person done, right? Because they're just like, oh, what is this person doing? And that happened repeatedly, I would say on a daily basis, because every day there was a new lesson. Every day there was something else that we were learning. And so think about what that is reinforcing in children, right? We think it's motivation, like that half the time kids are not even paying attention. But I know for us, it reinforced that speed is equal to intelligence, right? That you were getting rewarded the faster you got something done. And it was also creating a sense of comparison where children were then labeling themselves smart, dumb, not good at something based off of how quickly they were completing it, not based off of if they understood it, not based off of if they had gotten it right, no matter how long it took them, not based off of if they did it independently or not. None of that mattered. Children were basing themselves off of how fast. And as a junior high school teacher, I saw this translate into junior high schools and into high schools where when children would come into my classroom, they wanted not only me to give them immediate feedback when they were finishing something, but they wanted to do it at lightning speed. And if they couldn't get it at the lightning speed, they just wanted me to relieve them of whatever thinking. And so when children got to my classroom, we reframed that, right? Speed did not matter. It wasn't about speed. It was about us working together, talking through problems, thinking about things, sharing ideas, asking questions, and children all of a sudden begin to reframe that they didn't have to speed through something, right? We had a certain time frame. There was a class period. They knew they had enough time to get things done. And usually they were working in groups and there were things like that happening. So we were shifting that. And I want to encourage you, if you are someone who has developed your identity around math and your ability of math based off of those type of situations, that you actually pause and rethink that. Processing time and the amount of time it takes you to process a problem is not equivalent to your intelligence. I work with brilliant students every day. Some of them need silence to process. Some of them need to talk things through. Some of them need to work on it with their hands. Some of them need to ask some questions. Some of them need to just sit and think about it. And some of them can actually just go on through it. And all of those students, no matter what they may need, it doesn't change their level of intelligence. Actually, it makes them more self-aware when they're able to identify how they need to wrestle with a problem in order to maximize their success. And so we really need to stop in our culture, rewarding speed and equating speed or how fast somebody is processing something to their intelligence. Because even though that may be a gift, it doesn't mean that those who don't process as quickly are not just as brilliant or intelligent as those who do process quickly. So I know y'all have some of these stories. Are there any stories that you can remember being in elementary school, being in school, where you thought that your intelligence had to do with how fast you could get something done? Comment speed below. If that was you, I want to hear you say speed below. And we are reframing that. So we are encouraging children not to be quick, not to be fast with what they are doing, but to be thoughtful. We are encouraging children to be problem solvers. And when we are solving problems, sometimes it requires us, all the time, it requires us to pause and to think and to understand what's going on. And whatever level that takes for children, we need to think about that. And for all my educators, I want you to really think about your practices and how are you creating a culture that encourages processing and encourages thinking and inquiry based off instead of speed, right? So remember, speed does not equal intelligence. I will see you guys back here next week for more fun. Bye.